present to launch it now. The session is just starting recording now, so behave yourself. Please switch off the camera and the microphone if you're not speaking, and when you're done is call you on the floor, you can pop up.
It will be no problem if you, unless you advise otherwise, if they are on the screen. It would be nice to have them on the screen.
Yeah, I know. The problem is that there might be some problems with the stability of the platform. This is the problem. So we advise that only 1-2 person.
Okay. When it give me the go when it is to start talking, right?
You have a countdown on the upper right. It says 1 minute, 59, 58.
All right.
In 50 seconds, less than 50 seconds. And there's already 14 attendees in the queue. People will flow in the session. You can start. You will be on air, like automatically. You don't need to press anything to do anything. You will just be, the session will just start. So we can, in 40 seconds, you can already start in greeting your attendees.
Benza, you can bring up the presentation. I think now.
Yes, I can. I will switch to a presentation for everyone, and please, you only touch your own presentation or ask me to do it. Don't, if you're not presenting, don't touch your keyboard or mouse.
20 seconds, you might me and the IT admin, we can switch your camera and microphone off, but it's better not to interfere because this again creates instability. So please try to be on time, to stick to the plan, and to switch on camera and microphone if you're not speaking. 3 seconds. Good luck, everyone.
Hello, everybody. We are in the Health and Biotechnology session. A very warm welcome to our presenters today. I have the pleasure to be joined by experienced and passionate people. I don't know what counts more, but I think they're all passionate. I'm sure they're all passionate. Together with us is Jobari, who is the managing director of VIB. Halina Novak, who is in charge of the innovation technology program of VIB. We have Antonusi, who is the director of operation and financial at the EATRIS, the infrastructure for translational medicine. And we have Jeremy Laurent, who is the CEO of a Paris-based cell therapy company. You will, I'm sure along the way, you understand what connects us all, which is of course, health, research and innovation, and we all want to support the innovation in the field. A very warm welcome to our audience, and from the very beginning, I'd like to say that please, I'd like to encourage you to send your questions, your comments, with no hesitation. My colleague Frederick Perron, I'm sorry, will take care of that and will inform us about your questions. We have limited time, so I have to go fast and set the scene for our discussion today. As I said, the health and biotechnology and the SMEs, the small medium enterprises, is at the heart of the effort, and they play the key role in the ecosystem of health and biotechnology. My four co-presenters and co-panelists are listed here. And again, I'm very pleased that we are in this session. Besides the SMEs, we have the projects, the research projects. In order to get to the innovation, you need breakthrough research, first of all. And one thing that I'd like to share with you is that in the results of a recent research that said that out of 300 when they screened 300 H2020 projects, the top 10, they shared one thing, which was novelty and uniqueness. Uniqueness is a key. For every new research effort, uniqueness is something to really pay attention to. Some of the current global biotrends are listed in these slides. I'm sharing with you. The global biotrends is something that has to be the attention to every researcher and every innovator in the field. And they keep on changing every year. And these lists are created by very widely respected and widely accepted organizations and think tanks and newsletters like the Genetic Engineering News, those that you see here. For instance, We have genome editing, which is it's a technology that is revolutionizing the way you intervene with DNA and you make changes to the DNA. Of course, we have the emerging viruses monitoring. I don't have to say anything about that. It's obvious for the period we live. We also have synthetic biology. One of our board members, Hermann Hauser, really underscored the importance of the field, and it's obvious because 1 billion investment, primarily in the States, has already happened in the synthetic biology field. There are also other trends that you see here, and included in this list is the cell therapy and gene therapy, and we have here a company from cell therapy. I'd like to go to the next slide. Oh yes, one slide back. This is one example of one of the trends with a recent publication, could be a breakthrough. We have that, according to this publication, came from Cornell. We can reconstitute vessels outside of the body, and that could be a disease modeling system that could allow us to try and test different new treatments of cancer. This is very new. It's a protein that was identified that can rejuvenate endothelial cells, and this is a very, very, very important finding. And if you ask me what is a breakthrough in medicine and biology, I would point to that. The next slide describes what is a success of an SME in my view. Success could be, of course, to develop your product. Success could be, of course, to license your technology. But success is to have a major investment, the size that you see in this slide, in a cell therapy company. I'm trying to focus on cell and gene therapy company. For obvious reasons, we have a cell therapy company with us today. This huge investment was made by a French VC who specializes in this type of investment. That's also very important. Moving to the next slide, I'd like to also share with you that there is a lot of VC money flowing in health and biotechnology. Another important aspect is that this is really, again, the VCs have reached the point where they specialize themselves. You see different categories sub-thematically how they invest in health and biotechnology. Only the three first in this slide, they amount for over 100 billion. So when we are really a little bit triumphing about the 5 billion that were invested in the EIAC funded companies, we should look into this number, which is 100 billion, over 100 billion, and should of course become optimistic that this trend may be followed in Europe as well, especially now that we have the EIC fund. We want to create an impact. We want to create portfolio in EIC, focusing on health. Please remember, 30% of the proposals, 30% of the projects belong to the broader biotechnology and health area. That already says something. That already underscores the importance of the field. And when you want to evaluate the commercialization potential, you look into criteria that are known to the private world, and we don't reinvent the wheel. I would like, of course, to emphasize again the emerging trends, which is very important, and possibility to have the assessment internally. We do have that. Another thing I'd like to emphasize is the uniqueness, which we said before, and of course the opportunity and the impact. We want in EIC, we're in the pilot phase, and we are building internal expertise and capacity in innovation intelligence. We have lots of people that are linked to us and can help in monitoring, helping the companies. And I would like to say rapidly that the goal here is that in this pilot phase to find also a solid strategy and to understand all the different dynamics, how EIC can play a role in really becoming the leading organization in innovation in Europe. And that my last slide focuses a little bit also outside health. And I would like to make four comments, four points for my co-panelists to comment on that. The first is that EIC creates a critical mass. The word critical mass is very important here. We have many catalysts and many clusters and many organizations, but EIC at the European level can create what is called a critical mass, and that is extremely important. The second thing is that EIC can become the reference center in innovation for people, the way they think about CDC or WHO when you talk about infectious disease or about health problems. I mean, we'd like to have to think about EIC when it comes to innovation. And that is also very important. The third thing is we're in a pilot phase, meaning we are trying things and we are building a strategy. And the fourth thing, and probably the most important, that if EIC is successful, it means that the reason for companies to leave Europe would be minimized. And in the end, there would be nothing that you would have to go elsewhere, especially in America, from a partnership to find money, to find the right people. This is so important as EIC in its new phase, when it develops, it will have the capacity to take care of all what is needed in the innovation chain. So hopefully the first success after some years will be the real success, that companies like Astraves, Jeremy Laurent, they don't have to go elsewhere to put their headquarters or leave the continent. Frederick, are you with us? Frederick, do we have? I'd like to encourage the audience to submit questions. Is there any question before passing the floor to the managing director of EIB, Jobari, Frederick, that we could answer now? It would be good to answer questions in between the presentation.
Yes,
There is a problem with the sound, Frederick.
I can hear. Is it better?
If the problem continues, I will pass the floor to Jobari, and I'd like to share with you the following. It is my view, and I want your opinion of you, that everything can be corrected in the chain of the innovation chain from breakthrough research to the final product, but one thing cannot be corrected, which is science. What is your view of that? And I would like also, of course, to comment on things, because you're also a member of the board of EIC. It's a pleasure to have you as a board with your vast experience in research. And finally, of course, please share with us what is the secret of EIB and has been so successful and maintaining this high-level research. Thank you very much.
Dennis. Do you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, everybody attending this session. I'm Jobari. I'm the founder and managing director of EIB, which is a research institute in Belgium, in Flanders, housing 86 research groups doing basic research in life sciences in different fields, going from plant biology to biomedical field, etc. Now, what I think is important, as you just mentioned, Thanos, innovation starts from science. And if that science is not excellent, is not breakthrough, then your innovation will not be breakthrough. So for me, key is that innovation starts with top science that is performed in the best conditions at the highest speed and moving the boundary as far as you can. And that science basically is then the basis for harvesting inventions through a professional process of IP protection. And that's where it all starts. The IP protection is the basis then for our business development or starting up new companies. We started up lately 27 companies in the last 25 years of EIB that are now part of the ecosystem here in Belgium in biotech. And so I think my message is, the questions were, do we need something like EIC? Oh yes, absolutely. You need something like EIC as much as European scientists needed something like the ERC 10 years ago. And I remember there were many, many questions in the community. Why would we do this? Why would Europe need an ERC? And look where we are now. It's an absolute flagship of top science in Europe, with the ambition to really have bold projects that are changing our knowledge. And of course, that's only the first part. We are so blessed that we have the ERC. Now we need the second step to come to innovation. And there have been many, many ways to try to do that. But I think the EIC is the right way to make things bold and to change things. The major problem I still see in Europe, and this is majorly an introduction to the hopefully interesting discussion we will have, is that I see that still too many institutions all through Europe, from universities to research centers, don't take tech transfer or innovation seriously enough yet. So many of them remain deficient in that area, which is a difficult area. It needs professional people to harvest the inventions, as I just explained, and bring them to business development in new startups or with existing companies. And so the question was, what is the role of the EIC and what is the role of the program managers there? I think the program managers are, what we need is people that know what they are talking about, that know the sector, that know deep of the technology and understand what the science is about, so that they can help these institutions and these scientists, to harvest what is to be harvested and set them on the road to innovation through IP protection, etc. And I think your role can be tremendous. For instance, just building the bridge between these famous scientists in the ERC and, to bring them through your network to the right people to do the innovation. With some institutions, it will be easy when they have professional tech transfer. With others, it will be more difficult. And so for me, it's not the question to when you have, enough proposals to select the most interesting one. I think where the real potential, upward potential for Europe is, to help these institutions to professionalize their tech transfer and play a role there as broker in between the two worlds as program manager. So this is my contribution and open for the discussion.
Thank you very much, Jo. As always, very to the point, very clear message, very strong message. Very much appreciated. And thank you for informing also the audience about the possibility to not just to set up bridges with the European Research Council, but really we're working on what we aim and hope to be a really strong collaboration. Is very much needed, the two institutions. Frederick, how's your sound?
Hello. No.
Okay, that's very nice. Okay. Any questions so far to?
Yes, so we have one about introduction of innovation solution into healthcare and into patient workflow is a challenge. Is the EIAC planning any support regarding this issue? Did you hear me?
Not very well, Frederick. If you could, there is still a problem with the sound.
There is a lot of echo, and maybe you can put the question on the chat.
Yes.
Shall I try to read the question?
It is.
Can you hear me better?
Yes, please, Benson.
So the question was that introduction of innovation solution into healthcare and into patient workflow is a challenge. Is the EIAC planning any support in this issue?
It's rather a generic question, very general question, right? We are planning all kinds of support, we could say, but then it's this is exactly one of the things with the EIAC is that is accumulating, that is gathering internally strengths and capacity, creating capacity and skills that are needed from the breakthrough research all the way to the product. This is what Jobari just described before, that we need this organization because we are not going to support one part of this innovation chain. We will be focusing from the research projects, the leader of the research projects, up to the final product, and this is a long chain. And in order to do that, you need an organization the size and the impact of EIAC. I hope you share the view, because otherwise it's fragmented, and there are smaller organizations, there are regional organizations, you can get help from elsewhere. The need is, it's increasing need and understanding that you need a leading organization, a central organization with internal skills and capacity to do that, to be able to bring the innovation into service. That is the need that we understand every day as we're going through our pilot phase. Would you like to add something, Jo, to that, or?
Not really. So I think you said it well. The ambition of EIAC is to provide this service indeed through a network that we're building for the time being.
When I first met Halina Novak, who is the technology and innovation manager of VIB, I was impressed by the things that they are doing in VIB, and the very first thought was, if you have done all that with success, why do we need really EIC? Yeah? And of course, on a second thought, you realize that exactly because some organizations like VIB in innovation technology, they have already established a very workable, a very effective system. That's a very good reason to have EIC at the European scale. I mean, when you achieve excellence, that it makes other organizations to want to achieve excellence as well. And with this, I'd like to pass the floor to Halina Novak, who is very passionate about innovation technology, and they have a very good track record to share with us. Let's please bring up Halina's presentation. And Halina, could you join us?
Is she with us?
Yes, she's with us. In the meantime, if there is another question, Frederick, that we can take until Halina gets on the spot. And Halina, can you hear us? Frederick, any question from the audience?
Can you hear me? Oh.
No. Or Bensa?
So there was one more.
Yes.
Ashley Barn was asking if you were saying that the EIC is the ERC for innovation. Yeah. And she was also asking whether the projects can be high risk.
Sure.
Yeah, Yo, go ahead. Absolutely. The answer is yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes, twice. So absolutely, we prefer high-risk projects within the EIC, and that's exactly the ambition. So when the selection was made on some of the accelerator projects, one of the question was, is this project already bankable? If it is, maybe we don't give enough added value. So by choosing those projects with the highest risk that classical venture capital would not take on, that's where EIC could make a difference. That's one of the ideas, definitely.
That's a very good answer. I'd like only to add that before we get to Halina, that high risk is very much wanted, but not unwise high risk. I mean, we have that's the difference, and that's gonna create a landmark for EIC, in my opinion. That by building internally innovation intelligence, strategic approach, sector specific, then you can really select among the high risk projects, those that have the highest chances potential for commercialization and application. Halina, it's good to have you with us. We want to share your passion about innovation technology.
Fantastic. Thanks for inviting me. And I think Jo's already given a brief introduction on VIB as a whole and slightly into our tech transfer philosophy. And I'll just mention today another program we have running up at VIB called the Tech Watch program, and how we're stimulating technology innovation and specifically technology adoption at VIB. But is someone able to get my slides, or shall I get them myself?
Your slides will be up and running in a second.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bensa.
Okay.
Go ahead, Halina.
Yeah. So one thing which we looked into back in 2008 is how to also fuel technology adoption to foster and boost research output and IP at VIB. So we started up with the Tech Watch program back there, and now it's a fully fledged program where we have funding to support the adoption of new technologies, all the way to also having scientists working in the lab to help get new platforms up and running in close collaboration with the renowned PIs at VIB. So if I can go to the next slide.
With the arrowhead, Halina.
Yeah. Yes. So to briefly highlight, I mentioned earlier that we have some different funding available to the scientists to help de-risk getting access to new technologies at VIB. And this is split into a few different pillars we have here. The first is early access, and this is to help stimulate adoption of really pre-commercial technologies. And typically these are also very high risk. So we have a system to identify these, and then we help make the connection between the companies and the scientists so that we can also de-risk this process. And then we have new technology, which is technologies which are on the market for less than 3 years. The risk is somewhat lower because we know they often work. and then the funding is a little bit less. And then we also have technology development to also help stimulate the scientists in developing their own tools and ideas in the VIB setting itself. So how are these funding? How is it analysed? How are they selected? What to fund, what not to fund? We have set up a very neutral committee at VIB where we have 8 different centres, and we have one PI, one group leader from each centre who come together and really look at, okay, what's breakthrough, how should we invest, and what's the best model to de-risk across VIB to make the biggest impact. So unfortunately, this slide was a very flexible moving slide, but it's not in slideshow presentation. But basically, what I wanted to show here is the model of how we're working. So at VIB, we have a dedicated team, and this is called the TechWatch team, who have set up a system to scout for really disruptive technologies in life sciences that will have the potential to make a really big impact if the researchers can use them to foster their projects. So then we act as the interface between the new companies, often startups, some of which may be supported by the EIAC themselves, and the scientific community at VIB. And we bring the parties together to try to match the technology to the science, and then we also manage the projects. If I go to the next slide. So we work in two different models. We work in service mode, and we work in innovation lab mode. So in service mode, we're often working with new companies where they don't yet have a platform to, let's say, place in a research setting. And in these cases, we often send samples to companies and they provide us back with data. And the more recent model which we've developed is the innovation lab mode, where we really have institutional scientists, technology specialists, which are dedicated and hired to work on early access new technology platforms, often which are tricky to get up and running. They really become the experts in that platform and then work very closely with all the different scientists at VIB to get them up and running. And of course, in some cases, these technology platforms work very well and we make a big impact. And of course, sometimes there's not a match with the science or there's challenges from the technical side. And then we also work with the companies to say, okay, these were your technical challenges, and we help feed back to the community also in this light as well. So one thing I want to mention is that we have this TechWatch program, which is there to foster technology adoption, and we have people helping in the labs, but also funding and scouting process. And one thing we're heavily investing in at VIB recently is single-cell technologies. So we saw a boom in this, I think 7-8 years ago. And about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a huge uptake in using new single-cell technologies for single-cell, for example, transcriptome profiling. And we really see this as something which is going to need to be fostered, also beyond just VIB and our TechWatch program, but to really work together with Europe in helping and looking at all the different innovations which are going on, to really look at single cell resolution and translate these findings into therapeutics and so on. So extra funding was set aside to really invest in looking into new technologies and developing them also at VIB. So here I just highlight the projects which we funded between 2017 and 2020. As you can see, we worked with many different companies. Our investment risk is not just with one technology in one research centre. It's spread across all the different research centres and many different types of technology platforms as well. And here you can see just by default the number of technologies which were focused on single cell and what a driving force this will be in life sciences over the coming years. And to end, I just want to highlight that we are really working with many industrial partners. We have a very big network. And here I just highlight one collaboration we have with Janssen, where we join forces to look at single cell tools together and how they can be used to help research and also downstream applications, of course, in the pharmaceutical sector. And also I want to highlight that we also played a crucial role in the lifetime single cell project, which is now just published a paper in Nature. And the TechWatch and single cell accelerator model have been used as key examples on how to foster technology adoption, and could be used across Europe and the rest of the world as a model.
Thank you very much, Helena, for your presentation. A very quick question to both of you, really a very quick answer, please, because we're running out of time. This lifetime that was published recently, is it, I mean, the first application that you see is in diagnosis, right? And not in therapeutic, because we go to the cell level for diagnosis. Jo, would you?
Well, basically it's both. So the Lifetime is actually a community within Europe introducing single cell technologies in different areas of research, including cancer, including inflammation, etc. Okay. And the ambition is through single cell technology to identify the right targets to go for indeed diagnosis, as you say. Okay. And identify the right targets for therapy. And this is, I mean, I expect that in the coming 5 years, single cell technologies will majorly drive progress in life science research.
That's very good. Impressive your model, Helena, about the innovation, how the VIB scientists are testing really the different technologies. That is not that's rarely seen, and this is something that we would like really to study in EIAC. I'd like to pass the floor quickly, because we're running out of time, to Anton Usi from EATRIS. It's good to have you here, Anton. Please share with us this translational medicine infrastructure that Europe has.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I assume my slides will be put up?
Absolutely, in a second.
Wonderful, super, thank you.
So, at the blink of an eye.
Yeah, perfect. EATRIS is basically European research infrastructure distributed across 13 European states, and our job is to actually facilitate the type of high-risk, high-potential projects that come out of organizations like VIB and are financed by the EIC. I think a lot of the words you said earlier were really give our raison d'etre, which is really great science, but still very complex, and you're not sure it's going to work yet. But if it does, it's very high potential. And the idea is you don't want to immediately go to scale up or go to a contract research organization and do very standardized tests. You have to work with other academics in a very interdisciplinary setting to try and get your hands on all of the analytical technologies you can to try and understand what you're developing, because it's such cutting edge science. And EATRIS was designed to do that. So the idea is that we have a very broad range of research institutions and university medical centers and specialized facilities like non-human primates or screening centers, so that when a specific research question is posed, we are able to find the people around Europe that do so. So we're 110 institutions, about 55 are university medical centers, so we have good access to not only the basic labs, but also the clinical cohorts and the clinicians. And in fact, our owners are the member states, so we're non-profit. So we're a little bit like the facilities version of EIC. We have program managers who want to help projects to succeed, and we help find the facilities, whereas the EIC, for instance, helps to find the funding and the wherewithal to take it forward. So we have a very simple collaboration modus. We collaborate with SMEs. SMEs make up about 30% of our user base, and they come in, and if they're serious about working with us, they sign a letter of engagement, giving us the freedom to look at their confidential information to then find the partners that they need. And then we help find the relevant partners within our research institutions. They can select the partner that they wish to work together with, and then we support the process of going into confidentiality, project exploration, study design, and we support the negotiation through to project initiation. And then our research institution partner takes over and they perform the research project together. We're designed to be disease and platform agnostic. So it's academic groups that are actually the groups that are involved in EATRIS. So it's bringing academics together, doing academic work, but we've put them onto the drug development pathway. So we bring them into the areas where their analytical technologies or their tools are validated in that context of use. And we help support to ensure that when an SME comes along, they can work with the people who are the experts in the field that have the knowledge of that analytical technology, let's say mass spectrometry, in the specific disease context. So we try and really create the triangle of laboratory, technician, the expert biologist who knows more than anybody else in the world about the disease pathway, and the clinician who knows more about the phenotype than anybody else. Apologies, the hospital helicopter is about to take off, so I might go a bit fuzzy. So these are a couple of examples of the types of partnering we do. So it ranges from very tiny projects. So the Actica, a Swedish company developing a new mass spec technology a few years ago, came to us, and they wanted to do a bit of beta model development with the chemical biology institution, but they couldn't find the right expertise. We found it in the Czech Republic, in Prague, and the first project value was 1,300 euros. But that was already a few years ago, and now they've got a long-term partnership to validate this technology. So it's really not only about developing products, but also developing platforms. And I think what's important in this phase of development, as you know at FEIB, as you know at EIAC, is the need to also have an academic discussion on how do I frame the research question. So for instance, UCB came to us a few years ago. They said, we're developing a product for a specific indication. We have a few candidates that we want to analyze. We want to use molecular imaging to do in vivo studies to understand the PK/PD of our various candidates, but we don't know how to use the imaging. So we put together a team of our imaging experts and also the clinicians from the field, and they help first define the research question before we even put it out into a request to the sites to conduct the research together. And then it ended up being a collaboration between Turku in Finland and Amsterdam, where we had the correct combination of preclinical model and imaging expertise. So it's really trying to take the pain out of de-risking a project and take the pain out of public-private collaboration, which, as Joe very rightly identified, technology transfer offices can still be genuinely underfunded and undervalued, and so they're underinvested into their support.
Can you please speed up a little bit, Anton, please?
Sure. So I don't even need to give this example, but a good one. We also are looking for technologies. We're constantly trying to help find technologies to develop the technologies further. So, for instance, T-cell tracking, obviously hugely important right now. So whenever one of our institutes comes to us with interesting technologies, we try and put together the people to really try and validate them in the context of use. So we're really very much an open organization seeking to do what EIC does, but we do it with the facilities. We bring the innovation and find the right project partners to really help develop it, take it to the next level of development. We're grateful to the member states, the ministries of science, the research councils, the member state departments that help us develop EIATRIS and really try and advance the state of European innovation capacity. That's it. I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anton. To the point, clear cut.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like again to invite and encourage the audience to submit questions. There's already one comment that is for VIB. Great initiative to VIB. So that is, I guess, for you. If you haven't seen it, please. They were impressed by what is happening in VIB. Frederick, do you have any questions so far or something to address it to our presenters here? Benza, Frederick, are you with us?
Okay. Yes. So okay. There were a couple of questions asking about the role of the PM, if you want to take those now. So, or shall we come back to that later?
I think very, very quickly to say the role of the PM is something we're in the pilot phase. We are developing day by day, and we are learning day by day, and we think it's gonna be critical in all that the EIAC will have to offer. But I'd like to focus on all other good things that we are listening by the present. Yeah, please go ahead.
And there was one about EIATRIS asking, is it only SMEs who may approach EIATRIS, or can individual investigators come to you for partners, facilities for their idea?
Anton, please be brief.
Yes. Very brief. Yes, anybody can come to us. So academic investigators also, please do, no problem at all. And we can only say no.
Okay, great. Before, yes, passing the floor to Jeremy Laurent, who is the CEO of a cell therapy a company in Paris, and it's very nice to see Jeremy again. We worked with Jeremy 2 years ago. I hope that the audience and all of us here understand that besides the fact that we're in the health sector, one important thing that connects us all is that we're all supporting the innovation in the health sector from different angles and different perspectives. So Jeremy, you have heard the different models that are used in VIB, in ATRIS. You have received funding from EIAC. You're now aware about the EIAC fund. Please share with us your experience so far. Is there any of the things that you heard, I mean, representing the SME word, that you would like to use, that you would like to try to test in your current development? And what do you think about the central role of EIAC in the future from all the information you have? Please go ahead.
Many thanks for the introduction, Jordanis. Yes, absolutely. I was actually thinking during a presentation of EATRIS and VIB that I was going to reach out to you, Alina and Anton, after this presentation. So yes, I think EIC is. We've seen a little bit of its development since we were funded about a year ago now, a year and a half. And I think it really goes in the right direction from my startup point of view to really help our innovation develop. I think it's really it's going in the right direction. So very briefly, Astravius is a Paris-based startup. We are in the cell and gene therapy fields, and basically we are developing high technology instruments for the manufacture of advanced biological drugs such as CAR T cells or other type of cell and gene therapies. And yes, indeed, I can testify that in our case, EIC has already been very decisive to our development, not only through a funding of about 2 million euros that we received in March last year, that really helped us advance and avoid dilution at the stage of development of the company, but also EIC came with other tools. We had EIC coaching that was very helpful and reassuring. It influenced a lot of strategic positioning, and it also helped us to grow faster and to be better prepared for the challenges to come. And that was also a good opportunity to meet and connect with experts of our fields, to which we do not necessarily have access because, as I think you were implying in the beginning of your presentation, Jordanis, we tend to have a lot of regional or national networks, and sometimes our fields are a little bit small, so that we don't have this critical mass you evoked in national or regional networks to find people who are really relevant to what we are doing, or at least the most relevant to what we are doing. So that was very critical. And now for the future, so our challenge is to bring the technologies that we develop to further stages of validation and ready for the market launch. So for that, important key partnerships, I would say, are needed for manufacturing, distribution, co-development. And for example, we hope that we can make some good connections through events such as EIC, Advanced Corporate Days, but also, for example, EATRIS. I think we could have interactions, notably with the centers we are working in Paris.
Jeremy, allow me to jump in quickly and say, you saw a cell therapy platform that was demonstrated by ATRIS, by Anton. You saw the model in VIB. At the current stage of development, and you know about the EIAC fund and the blended finance that was not existent. Was there any of those things that you would like to use, you would consider taking advantage, because all these things can be mobilized by the the fully fledged EIC, and that is kind of support that many SMEs in Europe would like to hear about.
Yes, absolutely. So, for example, we are advancing our technology, and we are working with this hospital center based in Paris, in Saint Louis Hospital. And basically, our goal is to try to see what are the best potentialities of the technology that we've developed. And I think, for example, with EIATRIS, perhaps there could be an interesting connection to build, to test with other centers and different models of therapies and different models of analysis. What results we get, basically, at the best, what are the best directions to go later, and who could be the most interested at the European level. So, and it's just an example. And I think there could be similar types of connections with VIB. You also mentioned blended finance. So this actually didn't exist at the time that we got the EIC funding. Sadly, I would say, because we would definitely have applied for it. So maybe we can have a discussion with the EIAC in the future to see if we could still be able to join this scheme. But I also think, yes, blended finance.
We only have, thank you very much. We only have 3 minutes, and I'd like,
okay.
I hope all my co-panelists take this opportunity to thank them all for the presentation. But I'd like to take the last question, because if SMEs are attending this session, Jeremy, again to you. All of us are here to help SMEs like you in Europe to build the economy. Is it important strategically where you're positioned? Meaning, instead of saying, I'm a drug discovery company, I'm doing something in biomanufacturing and this is specific. How important is that for a company to position itself strategically in the landscape? Please be quick, we have 2 minutes. And again, many thanks to all of you.
Sorry, I mean, if the question was for me, I missed the
question is, strategically, the biomanufacturing solution you are developing, how important it is to know exactly where a company, in order to compete with the rest of the companies in the world, to know exactly where you're positioned in the solution-wise?
You mean like what is the right type of market?
What is the solution that you are using right now? Positioning yourself in the competition in the market.
I'm very sorry. So I think it's very decisive for us to identify the right types of targets in terms of market. I mean,
that's what I meant.
People who are going to benefit the most from our technology at the right stage of development, meaning you can develop very large-scale machineries, for example, that can be relevant in the future, but they entail too much capital investment at the beginning. So maybe you can find more relevant connections and markets to explore, market opportunities to explore at earlier stages. And definitely, all of the tools that you mentioned can play a big role in identifying those right couplings, basically. I hope this was your question.
Maybe I can add something. So normally with the companies that we start up, the first thing, of course, is the business plan you have and the ideas you have about the market to develop, but that is changing every day, of course, because, you know, your target is a moving target. And so the way we do it is, of course, it's a combination of the knowledge and the intelligence within the management of the company, plus the board in the company and the VCs linked to that company and their network. And so that's basically on which you build to develop your company as it's developing and as the technologies are developing, whether the hypotheses are right or wrong, etc. And you change over time. And so I think where EIC can help is to expand that network of that single SME or that single company or that single company that has this project with the EIC. Because the ambition of the EIC is to expand that network, like for instance, Spark does in the US at Stanford. It is providing that extra expertise and that extra access to that network to enlarge the possibilities of the company.
Absolutely great comment. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for participating. We want companies like Jeremy's to stay in Europe. That's the goal, and that's why we need the EIAC at the central scene, managing, innovation. Thank you very much all for being in this session today.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care.
And good luck to all of you.
Thank you.